Hi. The other day I was told a story from a lady. Hi there. The other day I was told a story by a lady who had been looking for a rescue dog. She'd been doing a bit of research, she'd been looking at different places, different rescues, different dogs. And specifically, she told me that she'd settled on the dog that she chose because he was under 2 years old. And this was really important to her. She thought that after 2 years old, there was nothing you could do with a rescue dog, that their behavior had been set and that you couldn't change it after that age. Um, and I found that really sad. But we hear this all the time, lots of people will say you can't teach an old dog new tricks, or once they get past a certain age, they get stuck in their habits. But you definitely can. You can teach any dog of any age. Of course, their needs change, and the way that they learn and the speed at which they learn will change as they get older, but they never stop learning. Um, for example, as a newborn up until 24 weeks, your dog is an absolute sponge. They want to learn absolutely anything you can teach them. They're interested in exploring, they're open-minded, they're interested in their environment, they're socializing. So this is a really good time to do a lot of their basic training. You'll teach them their house training, the rules of your home, get the basics started, you'll start working on the leads. They'll be really receptive to all this stuff at that age. So that's a golden age to start training your dog. Absolutely no question and argument about that. Then after that, they become a teenager. Things get a little bit tricky now because these teenagers are a little bit unstable sometimes. They're very emotional. They can be vulnerable to new experiences. One day they're full of confidence, the next day they're grumpy and vulnerable and reactive. They're spending their teenage years trying to find themselves and how they fit into their family and the world. So they can be tricky to train at this age because it feels like you're on a bit of a roller coaster. You'll be making lots of progress one day and everything will be going great. And then they'll have a really sort of reactive day, and you're not going to do a thing with them. It'll feel like you've taken 100 steps backwards, and it'll feel like a nightmare. And this is what training a teenager can feel like. It's lots of ups and downs, but keep going and you get there in the end. Once they stop being a teenager around the age of 18 months, they go into their young adult phase. Now, this is my favorite phase for working on behavior because at this age, they're starting to form habits. They're still open-minded to learning new experiences. They're not so vulnerable as they were as a teenager. They're much more steady. So all the training you do with them is going to have a much greater impact. And then they come to the age of 3. So only now are they just becoming an adult. So what a shame for that first dog that may have been written off because it was over the age of 2. It's not even an adult at that stage. So when they become an adult, their behavior is much more stable. They're much less vulnerable to new things. So an experience in the park is less likely to permanently scare them. They're going to need a lot of experiences, or really, really big experiences, to really damage their sort of emotional well-being and their mental health. So that's a really good thing. It is harder to change their behavior for good and bad though. So when you're working with them, you'll need to be more patient, you'll need more repetition, but because they're less reactive and all these other things are not affecting them, then your training tends to go in more of a straight line anyway. It's less affected by the bumps and whatevers of the real world, and you'll make a much more steady progress. But behavior is absolutely changeable at the age of 3. Then later on, they kind of reach their senior years. At these ages, they're more likely to be affected by their health than they are by changes of routines or things like that. They are more fixed in their habits. Their habits have been well rehearsed. If you imagine a 10-year-old dog that's been performing the same behavior every single day for 10 years, it's not going to be as easy to change as it would for a 3-year-old dog who's only just really started to form a habit. So yeah, it does take a little bit longer and a bit more patience. You maybe have to wonder whether you think it's worth that. If a dog's going right into their sort of later years, is the stress that you're going to put on your dog by trying to change their behavior worth the effort? Is it better just to try and avoid a situation if they're not really understanding it very well, or if they're very anxious in that situation? But I've certainly taken on dogs up until the age of 14 and they've responded really, really well. Most of them surprisingly well considering their age, but their health is a big factor. So if your dog's heading into the senior years and you want to work on their behavior, it's absolutely doable. But get them checked by the vet first, make sure they're in good health, and any kind of issues that they may have, get them under control, and then all you have to worry about is their change in behaviour. Just needs you to be a bit more patient and take a bit more time, but absolutely doable. There's no reason why a dog over the age of 2, 3 or 10 couldn't learn new behaviours and new habits. As long as it's fun, dogs always prefer to be stress-free. So it doesn't matter what they're doing, there's no reason why they can't learn new things. Take care for now. Bye bye.